Hello, my name is Mike, and this is a bike. Well, it's part of a bike. It's an engine that I purchased very, very cheap because, well, I needed an engine for a bike that I also bought very, very cheap because it had no engine in it. This engine that I'm tearing into, if you watched the last episode, you'll see me tear it apart and get into the transmission where the previous owner, Rod, who had that engine, thought that there was some transmission issues with it. It did turn out that there were some damaged teeth, about ready to give up the ghost, but there was no circlip issues. And by circlip issues, what I'm referring to is certain models of Victory had a problem with circlips working their way loose and then gears moving where they should not have moved. And when two gears move where they should not have moved and there's other spinning gears, well, sometimes it's catastrophic. I actually contacted Ryland Voss to find out which models and years and stuff were prone to that problem, and to my surprise, he said all of the 106s, 6 speeds in the cross countries were potentially had that issue. I thought it was just a couple of years. So we'll talk more about circlips versus spiral snap rings as this episode continues on. But while I was waiting for my parts to arrive, I decided to try and get the paperwork cleared on it and get title. So I loaded up the bike in the back of my truck, and I figured that would be the quickest, easiest way to do it rather than to hitch up the trailer and roll it onto the trailer and all that. I just pick it up with my hoist, drop it in the bed of the truck. Well, it worked, sort of. Anyway, I got a sign off. I went to the motor vehicle department. They sent me to the highway patrol. I went there, and well, there was some interesting results. Anyway, we're in the process of getting the paperwork done, and hopefully we'll be able to register and title this bike. So far, so good. So if you want to see what the engine looks like reassembled, well, stick around, because in this episode, we're going to put that engine all the way back together and stuff it in that bike frame. So, stick around.
Somewhere in a dusty, dirty back alley in western Arizona, not far from historic Route 66, is an old fart trying to cram a square peg into a round hole. He'll work on anything, just as long as it's got at least 2 cool wheels. So since the kickstand attaches to a bracket that's not here, I just took an old frame member, used an existing bolt here, and this is Mickey Mouse. This bolt right here is all that stops it. And of course, if it slides back too far, well, then the whole bike goes down. So it's iffy, it's sketchy. So instead of damaging the gas tank, well, I damaged the fairing. Great. Once I got her loaded up, I hauled her off to the local motor vehicle department, and they went to inspect it, but they couldn't really see the tag because it had rubbed through from the wire harness, so they sent me to the local highway patrol station. Once I got there, well, I found out some pretty interesting news. Yeah, they were able to inspect it, and it answered the question of why the engine was removed. Turns out it wasn't removed simply to inspect it. Turns out that the engine that was in the bike was stolen. So presumably they returned it to its original owner, and I will now install a legal engine in the bike.
inside. It's kind of cold and windy out there. Let's give us a little bit more comfortable place to work. I got my super mega diesel heater. You'll see I'm wearing a t-shirt. And, we can go back to reassembling the engine. Another reason I want to bring the bike inside the garage instead of working on it out there is, well, I can attach it to a come-along ratchet strap. Now, you might ask, why do I have it attached to the rafters of my building with a come-along and a ratchet strap? I mean, you saw how solid that makeshift kickstand is that I put together, right? Yeah. You've also seen how clumsy I am. So now the bike is really quite stable. I'm less likely to knock it over and break the fairing even further. Not only that, but when it comes time to hoist the engine up under the bike, I need to be able to change the elevation of the frame and get it so that I can get that engine lined up and put in. So this works out really very well. I can adjust the height and so forth. So this part of it's ready, but I still haven't assembled the engine. And that's because, well, I ordered some snap rings to replace the circlips. So the circlips that hold all the little gears onto the shaft, they look something like this. You guys can see it's got an opening in it and they're spring loaded, so you use a pair of snap ring pliers to expand them and slide them on and off the shafts. The problem is, as the gears wear, well, they can wobble a little bit as those bushings incur a little bit of wear. And as they wobble, they can kind of twist on it a little bit and might even become dislodged. If it becomes dislodged, well, then you got some pretty serious problems. On the other hand, a spiral snap ring has no such gap. And if you look very closely, you'll see it's actually 2 layers. I don't know if the camera can capture that or not, but there's 2 layers. Let me grab a screwdriver here. Might be able to show you a little bit better. But it's actually, yeah. So you can see, hopefully. So this is a spiral, kind of like a spring coil. Goes all the way around, and you separate it and you slide it down over the shop, and it snaps into the same groove. And it does a much better job of keeping that gear from sliding on the shaft. The problem is, well, the ones I ordered are a little too small. I got the wrong ones. And that's because, well, my calibrated eye ain't all that good. Even though I use one of these here, oh, come on, newfangled measurement devices, little micrometer type caliper thing. Well, some of the listings were in metric, some of them were in American, and I kind of confused myself and didn't translate it quite properly. So anyway, I got more of these on the way. They should be here tomorrow, and tomorrow I can put that transmission back together. We can put it back in the case and put the case back together, seal it up. Once it sets up, we can put the jugs on it, and then, well, with any luck, get it back in the bike. Oh, hi! Well, it's the next day, and we got in the spiral snap rings that more closely match the circlips that we'll be replacing. So that's the goal here. I've converted my tire machine into a makeshift table because, well, I'm out of room. This place is a cluster, if you know what I mean. I got stuff everywhere. What I need to do is get even a little bit more organized. I've been working on it. It's getting there. But in the meantime, I still got to get stuff done. So, I've got a little platform set up here. We'll pull these gear clusters apart, put the spiral snap rings in place of the snap rings. If I forget which gear goes in which direction, well, I've got the old gear set to use as a reference point. So, that's the plan for right now. We'll get these things in, and then we'll put it back in the case. slide on down. Here we go. Sliding down. Come on now. No dilly-dallying. Got a long ways to go here. Oh yeah. Sliding down. Sliding down. All the way down. Come on. Oh, you can't stop there. Nope. Gotta keep going. Getting closer. And where's my starting point? Okay, there you be. There now. Into the groove you go, little bugger. Okay, that one's in. She's in all the way. That gear's not going anywhere. And as you can see now, there's no gap like there is, you know, with a circlip. You got a gap. It is completely closed all the way around. Now that gear can't possibly go anywhere. Oh, by the way, yeah, there's little schmutz and rust on these gears. But the gear teeth themselves are much better than what came out of the bike. All right, we'll just do that times 47, and we'll be good to go. check the gears. Let's see, if I go upshift, it's downshift. That's 2, 3, 4. We should be in 5th gear right now, theoretically, which is direct drive, and it is. So let me go up 1 gear. Make sure my stuff falls out. That should be 6th gear, overdrive gear, and it is. Okay. Direct drive again. Or 4th or 5th gear. Quite go in. What's your problem? There it goes. Just needed a nudge. Let's see the ratio. This is 4th. So I'm doing 1 revolution. It's doing 1.5. And good. These are falling out. Okay, good. 3rd. Even more gear reduction. And once I go into 2nd, there's no going back. Because it's going to lock itself out. Didn't like that. But the rest of the way. One little shifty drum thing. This is scooched, that's why. I just realized why I couldn't get it to shift. It's 2nd gear. This shaft has to be spinning, and little centrifugal balls have to move in order to go into 2nd gear. Here we go, 2nd gear. Let's see if we can get her into 1st. Oh, there's neutral. Let's see if we can get her into neutral. And spinning should help. And now we're in neutral. Neutral. Turn this side remains stationary. Yeah. How about 1st gear? Do I have 1st gear? Let's find out. Okay. 1st. And it's got maximum multiplication. Alright. We got all the gears. Let's do this. Now all that's left is to clean up the surfaces and reassemble the case. So I'm going to clean all these surfaces off as clean as I can get them. I'm looking for any high spots. You know, when I pried that apart, kind of mauled it up a little bit. Those spots aren't a big deal because the RTV will fill those in, but any high spots I want to take a file to and file them to get it as flush as possible. We'll get that all cleaned up. We'll put a bead of RTV around it, and then we'll reassemble the two case halves. One moment. My heater, kind of noisy. Anyway, another day has gone by. The RTV has fully cured, and we can go ahead and continue to reassemble this engine. I've gone over this before in other videos, so I'm not going to focus real heavily on the details. We'll just, speed it up and get it all put together. Kind of the key things to remember are you want to get the rings, gaps lined up properly when you put the jugs on, and then of course the timing procedure. That's all in the old service manual. So if you guys aren't real familiar with these engines, it's actually not that hard to do. There's a couple of holes in the case that you can put a pin or a bolt in to hold the crankshaft in the correct location for timing both the front cylinder and the back cylinder. So as long as you are, following the instructions, it's really not that bad. And then once we get it all put together, well, we pretty much run out of time. We'll get it put together. We're not going to have time in this video to actually stab it into the bike, but we will get it put together. So here we go. Before I go ahead and drop the jugs on, we've trimmed the excess RTV from the seam where the cylinders go, because the gasket's got to sit here and then the jug's got to go in the opening. So you got to trim it on the inside of the opening as well as on the flat surface here. And then before we put the gasket on, we put a tiny little dab of RTV right there so that the gasket and the case will be happy at that junction. Same thing on the other side. And then we can get our rings lined up and slide our jugs on. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. We've got this engine pretty much back together. It's missing the trigger wheel. Don't know. I'll find it. And then the next episode, we're going to go ahead and put that motor in this bike. So thank you all for watching. Please make sure you like, subscribe, share, the usual routine. Those little clicky buttons, they help me out. And the more people that watch, the more I have a chance of becoming monetized. So thanks for watching. See you in the next one.